We're bringing a classic series back today. My honored guest has returned.
Hello.
If only we could get my other guest to come back. He hasn't been on here in like 4 years. Um, it's really funny that so many times when you complain about something, it's almost like foreshadowing. So I mentioned during the stream I did, I believe yesterday. It's either that one or the one on Monday. That not yesterday, on Thursday. I'm sorry. Um, that a lot of times you get blamed for things that aren't your fault. That people think you're their slave. And we'll get more into that as the stream progresses. But I did think it was interesting to kind of think about the anti everything crowd. So you like the last Airbender, the show, right?
Yeah.
You know the fourth season wasn't made because they went to work on that horrible movie.
Mhm.
I was explaining that back in before the comics came out that like tie some stuff up. You had a lot of things they could have used for a fourth season. Like you had what happened to Zuko's mother. You had what is the Fire Nation going to react to no longer being at war, because you could have some people that didn't want to stop fighting. And one of my subs was like, "Well, they had comics that came out that explains." Like, yeah, but we're talking about right after the show ended. Those comics didn't exist yet.
Mhm.
So, when you have a person who is like telling you, "Oh no, this ended on a high note," it's like, I mean, I guess, but if they did another season, there's plenty of stuff they still could have worked with. You know what I mean? So I said people are just anti everything. They're just opposed to stuff to be opposed to stuff. It's really sad that some people act this way. Just like I was on Twitter and people were talking about they want TASM 3. And I always say that while I think TASM 2 is not good, I have no problem with another film in that universe if it's given a good script, good performances. Just like the idea by itself does not bother me.
Mhm.
And you have people like, no, his story was already told. It needs to be finished. Just they're just always opposed to something. Because when I was opposed to TASM 3, I was talking about the weird script that they originally had back before it was canceled, where it was going to have the him, Peter going around resurrecting dead people, like weird stuff. From what my perspective, just I didn't like what I heard about the script, but the idea of doing a sequel to the second one didn't just like turn me off, like bother me.
Mhm.
You missed Dead by Daylight.
Mhm.
I thought you liked that game.
Mhm.
Oh. Yeah, I was telling them on Thursday about how I hadn't played as Killer in a few weeks, and I played as it on Wednesday, and I started going up against like some pretty like like fun matches. Like no one is really getting that aggressive or crazy. And then I ran into this sweat squad where they have more, flashlights do right when you blind the killer, they drop the
Mhm.
person, and they have like Soul Guard and Adrenaline and all the other perks. So I can't pick this person up because I'm gonna get flashlighted. I have to like hover over them, or else somebody will come and heal them and get them back up, and it's gonna take another 2 or 3 minutes to knock them on the ground again. It's just really it was a miserable match. And I was saying that I don't when you play a game and you have just this extreme like I don't ever feel that pressured playing as Survivor unless I'm the only one left and I'm looking for the hatch, which is very rare anyway. So when the few times that you play as Killer end up being like very stressful and make your heart race and you're like uncomfortable with how much stuff you're having to do to just try and get the slightest chance of winning. You just say forget it. I was playing as Huntress. You know who Huntress is, right? It
Mm-hmm.
wears a little white mask.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the reasons I like playing as her is even though she is kind of slow, she has the hatchets, which is this thing she can throw at you. And most of the other killers don't really have something like they have to be directly next to you to hit you. So a lot of times, one of my favorite things to do with her is that somebody will drop a pallet, the little thing to knock on the ground, and then when they drop it, you throw the hatchet and hit them because it forces them to stay in place for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's the main thing that really sucks. Like I always feel tempted to play as killer when I want to experience the different play styles of different killers, but just the problem is I'm left with a kind of a predicament where with a lot of people the first time they do something is always the hardest. When you pick up a different killer, they always have usually like different play styles, so it's hard to have your first time playing as someone be up against some sweat squad that's doing all this crazy stuff. And it sucks because I had like 5, 6 matches that I would say like I had one match where a person escaped by using the key, which I hate because they're like a cheap way of getting out of a match without actually earning it by doing the generators. Um, and then the other, but aside from that, I had pretty decent matches up until that train wreck. I don't know. I just think the best solution would be that when I start feeling stressed out like that, just turn the game off. Just like when you see 2, 3 flashlights in the lobby or um, 4 toolboxes or whatever. I don't. They don't let me see the perks they have anymore. But if you start seeing some that kind of like leans you into the idea that these players are impossible to play against, just turn it off. Just like don't even bother playing the right because they're going to get their points no matter what. So just you shouldn't have to put up with that. Just like when I would play against hackers, like people who are playing this killer that hack or whatever, I would just turn it off. You don't have to play with these people. Like these games are supposed to be enjoyable. And if you're not having a good time, just walk away. Don't curse them out in the end game chat. Don't try to like report them or for not playing the way you just walk away. Just turn it off. I tell you about that one match I had against the hacker when I was playing as killer,
Mm-hmm.
where the guy he was able to get out of the game with a key even though he was on the ground knocked down, which you shouldn't be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
And he had super speed. So if you knock him down, you can't even pick him up. I was so close to killing him too, and then his stupid Claudette friend came to help him and got him off the hook. So close. People are just so irritating. Imagine having to hack a game on a phone. Like, of all the things you could do, and it's even crazier when I just consider that, despite the fact I don't play killer that often, I've run into multiple hackers um, as both survivor and killer. Like I mentioned before, I have I have a match of a hacking Ghostface recorded where he's like speeding around on the map. I have another match. I didn't record it, but it was one match I played where there was a person who every time you hit them, they don't take any damage, and I still ended up killing them because I grabbed them when they were trying to pull somebody off a hook, which is my favorite thing to do when the survivor's trying to pull somebody off a hook, and then you grab them too because now they're also someone that can't do anything. That's why a lot of matches I face camp because if I feel like I can't get anybody else on the hook and they're doing generators, every 2 seconds, I just will just put that person on the hook and just sit there, secure a kill. It's sad when you have to play the game that way to get any kind of victory. Oh man. Oh, it says we have 3 watching and then went down to 2. I like how the numbers always fluctuate. It's like you have 1 person watching, now it's 3, now it's 4, now it's 2. I can't even get excited. I'm like, wow, what's the point? They're just gonna leave after 8 seconds anyway. I know this one guy, he has like a couple hundred people watch him every time he does a stream, and he said the average amount of time somebody spends like on his stream is 1 minute. So they just come to hear like a little bit, then they run off.
That's weird.
Well, that just shows how flaky people are. Yeah, I'd say Huntress probably is my favorite of the killers to play as. Um, Followed by Hillbilly because I like how fast he is. I do think that if I leveled him up more and got some better perks, I probably would be a better. I don't want to say because I'm never going to be a killer, man. I don't. I just don't find it entertaining enough to make it my major thing that I do. But I do believe that if I had a sweat squad and I was playing this Hillbilly and he's like a high level with like really good or decent perks, I probably would do a lot better against one of them because a lot of times they start looping me, um, and it's easier. It's like him and Pyramid Head that I think are the best for stopping that because with a lot of the times when they like drop pallets, if you're using Pyramid Head, he can hit people on the ground when they drop it, almost like they're giving themselves a death sentence. And it's the same thing with Hunters, where if someone drops a pallet in front of you, you pick up the hatchet and then throw it, and it hits them. I've had that happen so many times. It really does feel so good when you throw a hatchet and it actually lands, like you get the person. It's just really unfortunate that people are, so irritating with that game. Because there are times where it's fun, but it's too far few and in between. Like I can stomach. I guess maybe there's just a certain fatigue you get from this stuff. Like it's a lot easier to play 10 matches as Survivor back to back than it is to play 10 matches as Killer back to back. Because you never know if you're going to go up against a sweat squad, if all the players know each other and they're like doing organized stuff. Just it's never as entertaining. Yeah, I'm just not a fan of these games sometimes. I'm still laughing at that one subscriber of mine that said that I should that if I wanted to have an easier time as killer, I should use Trapper.
Mm.
One of the most basic, boring, generic killers in the game. It's like, yeah, I'll definitely give him a shot. The more I think about it, like he really is the only one that I can't find exciting. Because the problem is with the traps, if you put them, you first of all you only start off with one unless you get add-ons. Two, they're very I'd say circumstantial, and some maps don't really allow you to put them in places where you know they're going to land on someone. And if survivors are traveling in groups, they can unlock them very quickly. Like one person gets caught, another one takes them out. So by the time you get there, they've already left and disarmed the thing. Um, and there are some good trappers I've played against, but just it's too far few and in between. Like a lot of maps don't really lend themselves toward that ability. So I won't be playing the sim again anytime soon. I think I played the sim like 3 times. I got sick of it. This game was already stressful enough. Who else has a really good ability that I like? I think maybe the twins because I do like that you can use Victor to just kind of I think that's his name to just go around and look for survivors and you have a terror radius. They just hear the you know you've seen the twins before, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Some people do kind of get a little ridiculous. Like they'll separate from Charlotte and have Victor by himself, and then he'll lunge onto someone like that's right next to that to Charlotte. So they'll like go right back to being Charlotte again just to hit a person that's right next to them. They could have chased and probably gotten down just as quick or just as easy. I think I always like the ones where I've seen people be able to hit you twice back to back. Like there are some people who play as nurse where I swear it's like they can predict where you are so easily to where they can hit. I've seen them knock someone down, like hit them twice in less than maybe 10 seconds. Like it's so crazy how good some of these nurse players are. And I say that as someone that thinks nurse is the hardest killer to play as in this whole game. I mean, I played as her with not a regular match, but the practice matches, and I just wanted to tear my hair out. I was losing my mind at how difficult it is. And it sucks because I do have a genuine interest in trying out every killer, just you know, for fun. But that was not fun at all. That wasn't fun. That was infuriating. I'll tell you, some of these games, just the I guess I think what it is that I'm always worried if I play as a different killer that I haven't used that much before, who's gonna automatically not have as much of an advantage as someone I've leveled up. I'm gonna get stuck with a sweat squad that's gonna be able to that's gonna be like one more tool in their toolbox they can exploit. It's like you've only used this person 3 times. We're gonna have an easier time winning. The game just people always look for an advantage. It's just a really irritating thing to play sometimes. But I do think one of the positives of the game is always the differences in the killers that they all have these unique abilities. And even with the survivors, like yeah, they're all the same play style, but they have different perks that you can unlock. I just personally, and you can call me, I guess, appearance based, but if I don't like the design of a survivor, or I don't really have an interest in playing as them, I don't really care what perks they have. Um, the only time I made an exception was when I tried to get the self heal perk from Claude, and that's just because like I get tired of having to keep equipping med kits and having teammates that won't heal me. So that's the only one where I did that with. By the way, people like to teabag so much that I had on Wednesday a person that their way of teabagging is to start healing themselves in front of you. Like they heal themselves a little bit to make you come and like attack them. It's like they turn everything into teabagging. They turn a little bending, crouching over into teabagging. The heel is no matter what it is, any kind of motion they can make, they'll turn to teabagging. Some of these players. I'm just so tired of these survivors. They always act like jerks. Eventually I'm gonna do a stream or maybe some other video where I talk about how there are a lot of people that claim they love some actor or some different celebrity, but then they don't um, like actually support them. So when I was talking about this one crazy woman, she liked Elizabeth Olsen. That's the actress that plays Scarlet Witch, right? And she told me that she had only seen Age of Ultron and Civil War, which are the first two that she's in.
Mhm.
And I was like, why haven't you seen Infinity War, Endgame, WandaVision, all the rest of the stuff? And she's like, well, I don't like it when characters die. And I'm like, Bimbo, so you're going to not see the things that the person you claim to like, is in
Mhm.
because of such a superfluous reason as that? And you knew she hadn't seen any of the other stuff that lady's been in either. Because these people are they're fake. They claim to like someone, but then when they actually have a chance to come and support them, they don't. That's why I said the conversation is interesting to have because with a lot of actors, they're in like just throw a number out there. Let's say they can be in 40 movies, right? 50, 60. And some people swear up and down, I love this person. But then you haven't even seen them in anything outside of two or three.
Mhm.
Like that same chick, and I'm calling her that because I just think this philosophy is so stupid. She claimed to be a fan of Robert Downey Jr. You know who that is, right? Iron Man. Okay. Um, and again, she hasn't seen multiple movies where he's Iron Man in it, right? And then she didn't even know Shane Black, who's the director that directed Iron Man 3 and Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is one of the pre Iron Man movies that he did that was like successful. And then she hadn't seen him in Sherlock Holmes. It's like this, it's so pathetic that you claim to like this person, but every time there's something that they've been in that you can see and therefore participate in supporting them in, you don't do it. I just don't get how you love. It was the same thing with all these people who were saying, "Oh my God, I love Toby Maguire. Oh, I love him." Like, what have you seen him in besides Spider Man? And I guess what's really sad about him is that he's not even a prolific actor. Like that's why I said before No Way Home started like premiering in different places, there was a part of me that didn't believe he was going to be in it just because of the fact that he hadn't been in a movie since I was in high school. But like I wouldn't call myself a very big fan. Like he's definitely my favorite of any of the live action Spider-Man actors. But like even in not being again someone who would consider themselves a big fan of his, I've seen him in The Great Gatsby, 2013 version that is. Brothers, Seabiscuit. Like I don't understand how you claim to like someone, and then when they're in other stuff, you turn a blind eye to it. Like all those people, oh my god, I'm so glad Alfred Molina's coming back. It's like, well, I mean, if you like him so much, why don't you see some other stuff he's in? I've seen a lot of stuff with him in it that's not, Spider-Man 2 or No Way Home. Like I saw him in The Open Heart, or I think it was The Perfect Heart. Yeah, The Perfect Heart, which is this movie where him and Mark Ruffalo play brothers, and he like won't accept that his brother is I get what's a better way to characterize it? It's the brother. It's about Mark Ruffalo's character and him being homosexual during the AIDS epidemic. But that's one movie I saw him in. I saw him in The Family Man, which also has Willem Dafoe in it, where they, he's not as big of a role in there, but it's a good supporting role for him. Um, there's another movie I'm forgetting its name where he plays like a crypt keeper, and some woman that he's having an affair with like fakes her death. And I remember it came out in like the early 2000s. Like it's from right before he did Spider-Man 2. But you get the idea that I do make an effort to support these people when they appear and stuff. And I just think it's so sad that you see the same philosophy reflected not just in the way people treat actors who are in these like much bigger budget productions that you would think would entice them to view it, but also the way they treat, YouTubers. Like that's why I always remember from World Without Heroes 2, the guy that said, I'm a long time sub and I'm invested in your growth. And then you've never seen this bastard on a single video I did between for like 2 years of being subscribed to me. No comments, no attending any streams, just complete fakeness. And I'd have a lot more respect for someone like that, even if I think they're disgusting for the stuff they're writing. If they would just say, "I don't like your videos. I'm just, I don't care about you," because that would actually be reflected in the way they act. I love your channel. That's why I don't watch any of your videos or leave any comments or hit the like button.
What a liar.
I'm such a big fan of your acting career. That's why out of the 70 movies you've been in, I've only seen 3 of them. No, I've made it my mission over the last, I'd say year, 2 years. If there's an actor I like, I try to see them in, if not as much stuff as I can, multiple things that aren't just whatever I first saw them in. Because I just think that it's so sad that we have these people who are like decent, like they're like if I think someone's a great or good actor, I feel I want to see something just because they're in it. Like knowing that that person is in a movie is all it takes for me to be interested in seeing it. Like I'm not even a Sherlock Holmes fan, but I'll go and sit through what 2 of those just to see Robert Downey Jr., I just think if you want to support someone and their career, I guess maybe it would be the same thing. Like let's say I was a Stephen King fan, which I've never read a single book by that man, and people have been talking trash about him for a long time. But like if I was a fan of his, I would try to read every book he writes. Maybe I wouldn't be successful at doing that. Maybe I might find 1 or 2 boring, who knows? But I would at least attempt to give things a chance because I hold that person in some kind of reverence. I don't know. It just seems like whenever someone claims they like respect and like a person, it just befuddles me that they don't attempt to see them or to engage with the totality, at least attempt, right? You don't have to always be successful at doing it. Because there are some actors where I swear there you can't find any copy of certain movies they were in online at all. Like I'm not even joking. If it goes back long enough, you can't find it sometimes, which does suck. Um, but the idea I'm presenting here is that I'm so tired of people pretending to like someone and think someone is good, and then when they have a chance to support that person, they don't. Like I had a guy who said he loves Ghostbusters. He would not get off his lazy, you know what, to go watch Afterlife. And I'm like, dude, if you don't go, like, this is not a Marvel movie where they have a built-in billion-dollar audience with certain properties. If you don't go to see this, you're increasing the chances we don't get another one. Like you finally get a movie with the original cast in their same roles in the first time in what 30 years, and then you don't go to see it. The thing that you claim you wanted. Just like I didn't go to see Homecoming or Far From Home in theaters because I wasn't interested. Um, that's why it took me like multiple years to even sit down and watch those. But for No Way Home, I was gonna see it no matter what because I really like Alfred Molina. So it's just I don't understand people, man. It's strange to me. I don't know. I just feel like to be the best fan of someone, it's just my opinion. You should try to see as much stuff that there. It just depends what the medium is. Like if I'm a fan of a writer, I try to read as many of the things that they've written that I can get my hands on. Um, if I'm a fan of an actor, I try to see as much of the stuff they've been in as I can. Again, there are certain limitations depending on what it is. But you get the idea that generally speaking, I try to watch things that a person's been in if I believe in their acting ability. And again, some of these actors have been in 100 movies, so I do understand where you haven't seen everything they've been in, but like SNL did a really good skit, and I don't like to usually give them credit where they were like they had this couple pretending to they're like, oh, we're such big fans of you to Defoe, and they mention that they've seen all his movies, and then they only can bring up Spider-Man. It's like this is someone who is in a bunch of other stuff, and I just think like what was it, American Psycho with Christian Bale? Like there's so many other films that he's in, and it's so pathetic that people who claim to like this person. It's not like someone who thinks he's a
You
bad
don't see
actor.
their movies.
Yeah. We don't have to say their names. We've been doing that with some actors.
Hmm.
We saw it last night. It's really sad that these people you think are good, they're talented, they're in some stuff that is actually written well as well, right? And you don't even go to check it out. How much of a fan of you would I be if you were an actor and every year you're in something new with like a lead major role, right? It's not like you're in there for one scene. You're like a big part of the movie. And I don't go to check it out. I don't go to watch it. But oh, you're going to be in the sequel to this one movie that you were in that I thought was really good. Here I come. So of your last 10 movies, I've only seen one of them.
One.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I'm such a big fan of you. That's what disturbs me so much about Maguire. Like he's not even in that much stuff, and people still have not seen anything with him in it. Besides,
Spider-Man.
yeah, so I don't get people at all. Just like before James Franco got canceled, I used to see him in all kinds of stuff. I saw him in that was it the 8 movie from 2011, Pineapple Express, um, Disaster Artist. There's a movie he did with the dad from Malcolm in the Middle, where I'm trying to remember what its name was, but I think it was called like Why Him or something. You get the idea that a lot of these people, there's a whole bunch of stuff they're in that is written well, that has like a good premise. And I go to check it out because I actually care about these people and their careers. I am a fan of theirs. They don't have to play some specific character to get me invested in seeing what they do next. Have you ever seen the Fantastic Four movies?
I think I've seen the second one.
So you know that Human Torch in that is you know
Hmm.
like who he plays later on. You know who that is, right? It's Captain America.
It is.
Yeah, So in you saw Rise of Silver Surfer, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, that's Chris Evans, who a few years later would play Captain America. So I said a lot of these actors are in some really good stuff, and people just don't engage with it. Just like with some of the channels I watch, and it's not all of them, but I sometimes will sit back and try to watch, let's say 5, 10 videos back to back. You know, you what people would call binge watching. I always make sure to leave a comment on every video I watch to show that I was there, even if the person who made the video doesn't comment. Because I had one crazy sub who got mad I wasn't responding to their stuff, which, like I said, if I did this to anybody else, I would look insane. I don't know why you have to specifically speak to the person who made something to like it, but whatever. Um, I always, when I go to a channel of someone I like and I watch their videos, try to leave a comment and almost always do, unless I really can't think of anything. And usually these videos are like 5, 10 minutes long. So there's usually something they said I can or did that I can think of to respond to. Um, but you know, you get the idea that I try to show my support. I try to like remind them that I'm this looming presence who is invested in their growth, as that to quote that one clown, but actually mean it this time. It's just sad that people act this way. And I think maybe in being someone that, you know, doesn't really get that much support, I believe that that has caused me to be very supportive of those that have you know, impressed me in some way, whether it's on here or on some other website. So I guess that's the one good thing that, you know, at least you know, there's one person who became better from this, you know, thing of like not paying attention to the people and things you claim to like. I mean, we said the same thing. You know, it's even scarier when you start thinking about like fictional characters, but I don't even want to get into that. Like, you know, you have people who will claim they're fans of certain series that aren't even that long and have still haven't seen their whole thing. Yeah, I just find this whole saga really sad. I guess just as you become an adult, you start noticing certain patterns and trends. And I try to be what I would you know, like I'm not sitting here trying to toot my own horn, but I do have certain expectations of myself. And one of the things is that if I really like an actor or an actress in rare instances, um, I I do try to keep some tabs on their career because I think it's important to, if you truly believe someone is you know, talented, whether it's by being an actor or if they're on YouTube and they make videos, to actually be there to support that person. So I don't know. It's just that's just me. Maybe I'm on an island, but it's one that allots the people that you know. Another good comparison is like it just goes back to that whole thing of appreciation. Like with my best friend, if we don't speak every day, I still like to call him each week and send him a message and try to get in contact with him because it's supposed to show that you are important to this person, which is why after a period of knowing someone for 15 years, you've been allowed to consistently see them and they linger and continue to show interest in trying to talk to you and know how you're doing and to see if you're all right, to accept you for who you are and to actually be there to some capacity that most others won't go through. I just try to show those that I care about that I appreciate them. You know, sometimes it's too often we take others for granted. I think that's the issue. It's like, oh, look at how talented this one actor was. Oh, they're so talented. Why don't you watch the stuff they're in?
Yeah.
There's this one movie called Ingrid Goes West that has Elizabeth Olsen in it,
Mhm.
and you remember the second Captain America, the one that's in Falcon and Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
He plays her husband, and like there's this other woman that's like obsessed with her and whatever. I watched it just because she was in it. Just wanted to see something else that she was in that wasn't Marvel related.
Mhm.
And to get the idea that if there's an actor I think is really talented and you give them like a big enough role in something, I'll check it out just because they're there. You always have to make sure that you know you make at least an attempt. Like every person that was that I find very talented, and it's from that's usually from seeing them in like one or two movies. I always try to make sure I see them in other stuff. Not everything they've been in, usually because that's impossible sometimes as far as like the availability of it. But I do make an attempt to because a lot of these people have been in a lot of different stuff, and it just seems so bizarre to me to not attempt to see those other things again, especially if you like them. I don't really have any actors that I dislike as far as just as an actor. Like I'm like, oh, him. There are some that I think are objectively good, but I'm really not that interested in seeing again. But um, what's a good way of putting it? Generally speaking, I'll still make an attempt if it's someone that stands out to me or I just really like to go and check out. So it's sad that people are the way they are sometimes. I think it is kind of hard to keep up with all the channels I like, just because a lot of them do put out. Like with me, most of the daily stuff I put out is like 3 minutes. Some of them put up like a whole 40, 50 minutes worth of stuff every day. Like you could watch each one of some of these people for 3 hours a day for a whole year and you still would be backed up on like several years worth of it's just it's pretty much impossible, I would say, to just check out everything that they've done. But it's not the case for an actor. Like if they're in one or two movies a year, that's like what 4 hours a year to have to sit down and watch somebody. Like it's even easier to support an actor than some of these YouTubers actually,
Mhm.
because they're not putting up as much stuff. You don't see them as often. Oh man, I always wonder how long have people been like this. But I do tend to give older generations a bit of a bias. Like I admit that. Like I do believe it was harder to keep up with someone prior to the internet. You didn't have like a website to go to and it shows you everything they've been in and
Mhm.
places to watch it or places to buy it, stuff like that. But with the current era, it's so easy to keep in contact with someone even from the perspective of just trying to see like movies or shows that they've been in, that it's harder for me to fully empathize with someone who. And then you have people like that broad who just purposely go out of their way to not see the stuff the person's in for ridiculous nonsense. In fiction, characters die. Sometimes they get killed, sometimes they pass away. It happens. But that shouldn't stop you from supporting an actor or actress who is very much alive and who you could very much show your support for by watching the thing that they work hard on. Like, imagine you work on a movie where for months, right? You have to get up every day, you got to memorize these lines, you have to emote, you have to it's not easy being an actor. There's like a lot of stuff you have to do, right? And after you do this role that you play for weeks or months, and they finish making the movie, it comes out, you go up to me and you say, "Hey, you're gonna watch the movie?" And say, "Do characters die? Because if they don't, I don't want to see it. I know you work really hard, but oh well." So you have to pay the price for it'd be one thing if she wrote this, like she didn't write that, so she has to pay the price and suffer the consequence of your weird phobia. People are so irritating. Yeah, we live in the era of taking people for granted, not supporting someone when you can, all that. I remember we're getting to a point people are so lazy they can't even watch a video. Like when you go see a movie, you have to usually go to a theater and
Mhm.
sit with a bunch of people, and you know, like people won't even come to see you on their screen in their house. They just like click on a few buttons and they're there. Can't even do that. Yeah, the internet's just a miserable place. Still thinking about that next edited video I might do, where I just take all the weird comments and put them together. Talk about people are needlessly nasty. I wanted to get into that thing that happened yesterday, but we still don't have any actual like regular people commenting for some reason. You remember I always give them a time. I say, "Hey, I'll do this at 10 my time."
Mhm.
Oh, don't thank me yet, Duel. We still are not in the clear yet. We don't know if my kind of luck. You think you have a position, and then the next day they're like, "Oh, we decided to terminate you. Bye bye." So I appreciate it, but I still am not optimistic. But thank you. No, I was going to talk about. I mean, we might as well get into it because I'm probably not going to do a whole 2 hours if we're not going to have people saying anything. I might have a solution for your laptop problem depending on how next week goes. We'll let you know. Thank you, because I've been dealing with some ridiculous stuff with this computer for a while, like first the space bar goes out, not even a year after I buy this thing, then certain keys start like acting up to where they won't work anymore. Then the what was the other thing? There's like the one key starts typing by itself. Then you had some weird thing where it kept showing like you always get a menu every time you click, so you can't even press down on stuff. It was bad. So I would love to get another one, but it's just not as easy to sit up here and drudge up, you know, the I've already explained it before. But anyways, let me get into this rude person that I mentioned obliquely in the title of this. So yeah, PCs can be a a something sometimes. I just think computers in general are like designed to start screwing up after a while because the company wants you to buy another one. They're like, okay, we'll give you one, and then it'll work pretty decently for like a year, and then it'll start slowly breaking down on you. It's really irritating. Let me get into this thing with this rude woman. So on Thursday's stream, I mentioned this woman who was very rude that came up to me and was like explaining her backstory, that happened with stuff that was unrelated to me. And you got a mask, so you can't. The only way you can really show them that you're listening is eye contact, and I nod my head and I say as I'm listening, and she goes and I was talking about how rude this was, how nasty it was, how needlessly just being a prick, right? Just a person, a employee is trying to help a customer, listen to them, and they act this way towards someone who hasn't done anything to them. I thought it was very antagonistic for no reason. So yes, but look, I thought that was rude, and it got outclassed a million times over yesterday. I am ringing this older woman up. Now, most people, from my experience, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I have a poll, but most people from having this position for the last few weeks, when they pay for something, it's either with cash or a credit card. I have literally seen only two, and remember, I've worked sometimes 8-hour shifts for like over 40 hours logged in of just being in this position. I've seen only two people use checks the entire time in this entire multiple week period of having this position. And I'm just saying that to let you understand that I'm not entirely acquainted with how to do this because almost no one ever does it, period. So she gives me this check. I asked one of my higher employees on how to like process this. 'Cause, again, no one ever uses this, right? So I don't have experience with doing it. They explained to me what to do. I write the like information on the top of the check and I put it in this machine. I put the check into the machine and the machine starts going ding, 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 ding. Basically, the machine starts malfunctioning, right? Which happens sometimes with these computers that we have. That sometimes technological issues get in the way of transactions. It is something we've seen before. I've had computers freeze on me. It's not new. What is new is that after this woman's check gets stuck inside of this machine, and the machine starts, acting up, I'm directed to take her to another cash register, right? At this cash register, she starts to belittle me, curse me out, insult me, all every which way. Um, she calls me a mother, you know what? Says that I need to go back to school to learn how to count, even though the machine acting up had nothing to do with me not knowing how to count. When I'm giving her the total for her because she gives me cash at this point. When I'm giving her the total for her money. She insults me by saying, "I bet this mother effer can't even give me back the 73, whatever the change was." And then when I give her the money and the change back, she like snatches it out of my hand and leaves her change. And then as she's leaving the store, is cursing up a storm about, "I don't deserve to be treated this way, you mother," just swearing back and it's so bad, so cartoonish, and so unwarranted that one of the other customers apologizes on her behalf, says there's clearly something wrong with that woman. You know, it's funny how this was objectively not welcome to retail. LOL. You have to deal with the worst people on earth. Well, the thing is, when I was pissed off about the one on Tuesday, it was mostly because I hadn't done anything to this person, and they did it so quickly and so like without it being like a thing people noticed that no one really saw it happen. In the case of this one, it was so ridiculous that other people were like, "Yeah, that was screwed up." And that's all I'm asking for, like some just basic acknowledgement that there are some of the people that come into these places act like villains. They act like something's wrong with them. They're angry and hostile for no reason. Like somehow because a machine malfunctions, now I'm stupid, need to go back to school, and I shouldn't have a job and all this other completely out of my control. That the machine malfunctioned on her check. Yeah, you get so mad because we have to redo your order of your beer. You should be getting some Prozac or Lipium. You act that way. It felt more cathartic yesterday because everyone acknowledged how screwed up it was and how angry she was for no reason. That was the best part about it, that people were actually like in full agreement that you don't have to be that nasty towards someone that was completely benevolent toward you. And I know for a fact that the majority of people do not act that way. There was another person where the machine was acting up earlier that day, and she was just saying that if we could just hurry this up. You could tell she wasn't being rude. She had somewhere to go. It like people don't get to a level of just being very belligerent and cursing you out and all these like personal attacks over stuff that's out of your control. Most people do not act like this, and that's why I said that I believe the majority of people are benevolent in the general sense that like we talked about how I got the one video with the 200,000 views, and you had these like people writing nasty stuff about me, but the majority of people who saw that video did not write nasty stuff or call me out of my name or say, you're too this or whatever to get a woman. It's all kind of little like the majority of people don't act vindictive towards those they've never met before. They're not concocting like paragraphs of writing to insult you. Like just people in general don't act like this. And that's been very prevalent here, where even if there's some kind of machine error or glitch or defective thing going on, if the employee appears to be trying as hard as they can to accommodate you and to work things out, they will not act like this. They will treat you in a cordial manner if you treat them in a cordial manner. That has been my experience with 99% of the people that come into that store. That's why it's so easy to point out when they act insane because it's so few of them that do this. You had the very rude woman on Tuesday, and then this even ruder woman on yesterday. So I don't believe that this stuff is just ordinary because it's not. Like most people don't act this way. Just like when I had the guys who were writing paragraphs for my love life, like most people don't get that invested enough in the love life of someone they've never met to sit there and type out a bunch of trash about the person who they've never even encountered. Duel, I've never met you, but I know your personality because I watched the video you did. Because no one's ever faked a personality online before. No one has. There's no such thing as a public persona. Wait until you have to work for a holiday. But even then, that still is going to be a once a year thing. That's still not going to be a day to day thing of just people being nasty for no reason. Like this woman lost her mind because the machine malfunctioned. How weird is that? And like I said, if I did this type of stuff to people, because you do have you always have some weird person that tries to defend these types of things. But if I went to a store and tried to pay with a check and the machine malfunctioned and they just wanted to ring my stuff up again or like get a different way of payment from me because their machine was not working, if I proceeded to insult the cashier, say you need to go back to school, call them out of their name, all this stuff because of a machine malfunctioning, I would be seen as insane. They probably would call the police on me because there's just a certain level of belligerent behavior that if I exhibited, it wouldn't be tolerated under any circumstance. That's why I always give the hypothetical of if I did this, it would be seen as because people know that there's just a certain way you don't have to act if things don't go your way. But it was really cathartic to have people, say that that was screwed up. I've never gone to a store and gotten that mad over, well, first I don't even use checks, but I would never like try to take out on a random employee this issue I had, especially if it seemed like they were trying to help me and genuinely were attempting to like process the transact, just like the hostility for no reason. It's just so unwarranted. So I said some of these customers act like villains. Like I can picture when she goes home, she has like a little purple cape. And she got one of those little fortresses where they have a little password to go in there. I will go to a store and act like a piece of garbage because my check didn't go through, and irritate and disturb everyone there. That's her grand plan. I always use that term to describe behavior that I think is like needlessly antagonistic. Like I had this one guy who was saying that you shouldn't call people that disagree with you about the romance stuff villains. Like it's not even about disagreement. If you're going to sit here and personally attack somebody because they don't want to talk to a bunch of chicks that don't even like them anyway, what else would you be like? What would I look like if some woman makes a video where she talks about how frustrated she is that men don't want to, like date her or whatever, and all the time she's tried, it's always ended out the same way where they're not interested. And then I go on her video and say that she probably has a bad personality, she's ugly, she's probably gonna rape a man or shoot up a school. Like that's the kind of stuff that people understand is uncalled for. It's not necessary. It's needlessly nasty and antagonistic. You look like a villain writing something like that to someone you've never met before, especially someone whose worst crime is complaining about something that affects so many goddamn people that they have whole groups about it. Imagine being told there's something wrong with you for having an issue that so many men have. They have entire teams and organizations of people with the same issue, like who believe the same stuff you do because they've had the same garbage experience with the opposite sex. It's like you can't sit here and expect someone to just tolerate that stuff and not retaliate in some type of way, whether that's by insulting you back or calling you a term that's not, endearing. Like that's why I said a lot of people online, they want to control what they say to you, but they also want to control how you respond. People love taking out their personal problems on retail employees because they know that most of the time they can get away with it because the customer is always right nonsense. At least she did tear up the store like a lot of them do. Oh, at least she didn't tear up the store like a lot of them do nowadays. Crazy times. Again, it was just cathartic to see people admit that something was wrong with that person. Dude, even the customers know the customer is always right is BS. Because they saw the way she was acting and they everyone said that was screwed up. It's just really cathartic to see people get together to call out something that's being wrong or messed up. I think too many times people side together for like ridiculous stuff or to mess with someone. So when you see them together to defend a person in a situation where they didn't do anything wrong, I like that. Yeah, I love seeing videos people putting Karens in their place.
Yeah.
I do. I told you before. I think a lot of, and this is only my opinion. I think a lot of chicks believe that since they have, the magic triangle, they can get away with treating people any kind of way they want and like being nasty and gross. Because I firmly believe that if the situation were reversed and there was some old lady that was checking my items out and my card or my credit card or check didn't go through and I started cursing her out and insult, I would I would at least have had been asked to leave the store. Like there is a general understanding that certain belligerent, aggressive behavior is just uncalled for in circumstances where you have employees that are attempting to assist you and who are treating you well. Like I just think it's so sad that chicks believe that since they're female, they can get away with acting, quite frankly, like terrorists in real life. You mentioned stuff about at least you didn't just like tear up the store. Yeah, that's like what else do you call that besides domestic terrorism? You get mad, so you tear up a store. I gotta say, man, it's so cathartic when chicks get put in their place over like ridiculous stuff that they do because a lot of them believe their gender. I did the video before. Not I didn't call it this, but it was like the gender shield where they can just act any kind of crazy way that a man could never act without being called out for, and we're supposed to just like put up with it because they're a female. No, don't trust any of these chicks. And like I said, I'll defend a woman if she does if something screwed up is done to her. Like I talked about how on that website they wrote nasty stuff about one of my coworkers who's like they said she had an attitude. She's one of the most mild mannered people I've met in a long time. Like that is complete BS. And what really happened is they probably wanted to argue with her, and when she wasn't responding to their attempts to argue, they took that as being rude. So again, we're not against offending a woman in principle, but just like random chicks we don't even know on the internet. No, because remember, these people have to do a lot of mental gymnastics to even get to a point of it making sense. Like if I just write on paper, woman asks man out, he says yes, and then she rejects him. That sounds like a really nasty thing to do to somebody, right? Get them excited to go on a date and then be like, "Oh, I'm good." But people are so insane. They'll be like, "You probably did this. You probably did that." Anything we can say to defend a dingbat, because they're just blinded by chicks. They can't objectively say this is screwed up. This is not something that was right to do to another human being. And like I mentioned before, they'll never admit this, but they want men to be women's slaves. And it's very obvious based off the way that they think we should be treated. Like, you know, imagine believing someone should approach such a large number of chicks to where they lose count of how many they've approached for multiple years. It could be 2, 5, 10, and when that person doesn't get a date, they're not allowed to be pissed off. They're not allowed to get sick and tired of having the same thing happen, no matter how many efforts they made, no matter what stuff the woman or women said to make him think that they liked him in a romantic manner. Like what person would be expected to just keep having that same garbage thing happen to them year after year and not want to rebel against it? And okay, you haven't written anything else, but you get the idea that there's just we all have a certain breaking point with this stuff. Like if you keep getting the same result with chicks year after year for 10, you get desensitized to it. You start to believe that yeah, this is never going to change. Or if it looks like it does, they'll go back to being that same red herring crap they like to do where they say they're interested and then they backflip. Or if they are interested, quote unquote, it's to get money out of you or become more famous. Because we've already had chicks do that. Dude, I don't even usually have 10 people watching me and I had some bimbo asking me for a shout out. It's like they're already trying to do that type of stuff. They always have some ulterior motive. It's never to like you because they like you as a person. It's always some kind of little trickery. And unfortunately, they don't seem to realize that tricks are for kids. Most women are BS artists. But Dul, have you noticed that people believe that a man is supposed to undergo some years long arduous quest to get a date, like to just to sit across from someone at a restaurant for what 30 minutes, an hour, or to go to see a movie with them for 2 hours on one night and then possibly never do this with them again. You need to approach dozens and dozens of women, right, for multiple years and talk to them sometimes for weeks or months, multiple ones at that. And then if they reject you, you can't get upset. You can't get mad. You can't get pissed. You can't get sick of it. You're supposed to just sit there and take it and just say nothing, pretend it doesn't bother you. You get how insane this is?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, chicks come online and talk trash about men all the time. They talk about, oh, they did this one did this to me, that one did that. But we're not allowed to say anything about them. Yep, I've definitely noticed. They're not worth all that trouble. I mentioned this on another video. I said that if there was any other thing that took this long to start, people would tell you to give up on it. Like if it took me 10 years, like it was 10 years and I was trying to get signed to a record label, and every record label, even the ones that people don't know that ran out of somebody's garage, are like, no, we're not going to take your music. We don't like it. No, we're not going to take your music. We don't like it. Just over and over and over. People would say, go try something else. It's taken too long for something that other people have done without all of this ridiculous amount of time passing. Like it's only this woman thing that for whatever reason they're just granted amnesty when it comes to, like being something that you're allowed to get sick of. I'll always agree with your standpoint on this topic. Apparently, it's a sin to criticize chicks, but if people are more open in criticizing them, it's just online. They seem to have the gender shield mostly. It definitely is just online. If I wanted to, I could just go around and record. Like, it's very easy to start talking to some guy, especially if it's just you and him about how stupid chicks are. Like I mentioned before, in real life, I know a bunch of guys. They're sick of chicks. They just don't come online and talk about it because they don't want to deal with the headache of having these white knights and defenders and stormtroopers show up and back them. The most stuck up ones look horrific when they take all that makeup off. Well, remember we had this conversation. Like when they do their personality analysis, they talk about, oh, you must be unconfident. It's like I'm unconfident, but the way I look. This is the way I look at all times. There's no makeup, no surgery. It's like I'm unconfident, but these chicks have to cake their face in all these different cosmetics. You have the one broad in my DMs talking about breast implants. Like you can't sit here and tell a person who has never been ashamed of their appearance as to not always look the way that they do, right? But then like tell them they're unconfident, but then these people that do all this stuff to make themselves look different are confident. Like, how does that work? Also, good to be here for the ninth installment of World Without Heroes. Hope you're all good.
7 months later.
No, I didn't put that in the title. I put an even ruder person. Oh, Megumi, did you hear the story about the woman that because her check didn't go through a machine, the machine started malfunctioning. She started calling me a mother effer and saying that I needed to go back to school and I couldn't count, and was like screaming and hollering and talking about just all kind of like stuff under her breath. And then when she left, was like yelling as well. And it was so bad that one of the random customers apologized on her behalf and said she was mentally ill. Clearly, that was yesterday. It's just funny. It's like we talk about I get blamed for everything or blamed for something that's out of my control. I got blamed for a machine that malfunctions all the time. Machines malfunction more than you can count. Got blamed for that not working. We said that people are rude. That got, on Thursday. It got proven the following day with this woman. We said that most people don't do this. And sure enough, throughout that entire 6-hour shift, that was the only person that acted like this. Nobody else. Even worse, they can't even hold a good conversation. Shaking my head. We talked about that before, that chicks are boring. Like, all these people sit here, you're so boring, you're so boring. It's like, yeah, but okay, well, you think these chicks are interesting, they're funny, they're saying these profound things when you speak to them. Because the machine was acting up, I was told I need to go back to school, and she was saying that she bet I couldn't count the total.
Which had nothing to do with it.
But yeah, me counting had nothing to do with the machine not working. Like no one uses checks anymore. They use either credit cards or cash. So I'm not going to be as experienced with doing that as I am with the other two. And to get that angry about having to pay with cash or with the card if she wanted, everyone around me said that was screwed up. Never really catching a break. And remember, either way, you just can't win. There is always going to be that one customer person that's going to cause you problems, getting blamed for something out of your control. Remember when that one person wrote the negative review about me, they complained that we didn't have some product. And I was like, well, hell, did you want me to go to the warehouse and be like Indiana Jones, digging for it? It's always your fault. It's your fault to have a product. It's your fault if the line is long, it's your get blamed for everything. That's why I said I want to just next time I do a romance video, an edited one, I want to just draw a picture of me just on a cross. 'Cause that's all you do is just get crucified for all kind for the sins of others, for stuff that you didn't even do. There's always that one customer. God, man, these people act like they really have lost their minds. Like, I was shocked because like for someone to get that angry, like it's one thing to get annoyed that the machine didn't work, whatever. I was annoyed because I didn't want to have to redo all this woman's stuff again. But then to like, oh, and then she was like doing the nonverbal cue stuff where she was like slamming her stuff against. Let me give you an example. When she was like checking her items, she was like slamming all of it against the table, like the counter, to like show how pissed off she was. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? That's why I say these people act nuts. You get that angry because the machine didn't work, and now you're gonna belittle and be belligerent toward the cashier who didn't do anything to you. I told you these bastards are so lucky that this is my position because if it wasn't, I would say all kind of rude stuff back. They're very lucky that I get paid to put up with this.
Looks like everybody's awake now.
Yeah, unfortunately. People just I don't understand them. They get angry, they get pissed off. They and again I understand getting upset over certain stuff, but to get that upset to where you attack the person who was trying to assist you, I'll never be able to understand that. But again, I still would prefer yesterday over Tuesday because on Tuesday, the one that was rude, no one saw her do that. Like today, the yesterday rather, the one of the other employees admitted that the thing on Tuesday was rude when I mentioned it to them, and I had multiple people admit the thing yesterday was rude. So again, I just wish some basic acknowledgement by people that certain stuff isn't right. Just like the way we treat people sometimes isn't necessary. Because I've never done this to somebody else. You're never gonna see me when my thing doesn't go through a machine get so angry that I start accusing the cashier of not being able to count, and I'm slamming my items against the counter, and like I'm saying, I bet you can't even count this much. Like, what's wrong with you? Just a complete belligerent old decrepit hag. Like you, that's all she was. And again, I don't care about saying this type of because people will say, "Oh, it's so mean to call somebody." I don't like to insult people over their age ever, usually. But I was called mother effer, other terms I couldn't hear while she was mumbling under her breath. Like I don't understand how I'm supposed to feel bad about insulting people who I'm only insulting because they were rude to me. Like you can't tell someone to first of all put up with this, right? Secondly, don't say anything back when you're in front of the person. And then third, don't say anything when you're not even at the position currently. Like I just don't feel bad to call because I've had the same person who defended the one on Tuesday try to say you shouldn't call this person the B word or whatever. It's like, look at what they called me. Look at what they did. Like take your morality and shove it somewhere. Like they are lucky you aren't a person who would have lost their cool in that circumstance and probably would retaliate in a violent manner or something. Because I've seen so many guys in real life, some woman starts like blabbing to them like that. It's just so sad because I believe, like from my experience, that the majority of customers are. Oh yeah, there are. We have videos of that, like employees who have like assaulted customers when they say something or when they do something. Old effers are the worst. Wish I could crumble them up and toss them in the bin. But look, from what I've seen, the majority of them don't act like that. It was an older lady who was reading the newspaper that's went online and wrote that nasty thing about me. He didn't seem too bright. Like, of course, I don't know where this item is. Nobody besides you cares to look for a newspaper. And then you remember she got her paper, she got what she wanted, and she still went online and cried. Either way, you just can't win. You try to help this person, they get what they want, and they still complain. Just there's just no pleasing some people. You just can't win. Hey, Megumi, remember that line we used? No good deed goes unpunished. You can thank me later. You try to help this lady with paying for her thing. You try to like figure out how to insert this check in here. It's hard because no one ever uses these besides like two people in 2 weeks. And And then after all your patience and attempts to accommodate this person, you get cursed out, you get insulted, they're like aggressive. Man, that was just weird. And the other employee said that she had seen her before and she hadn't acted that way. So I don't know, maybe that she just got really triggered by that machine not working. Which again, I have no control over. I'm not a technician. The only thing I know how to fix is if the printer runs out of paper. They showed me how to do that. But besides that, I'm like Jesus Christ, that angry? Don't get mad at me just because your outdated behind is the only one that uses checks, that no one else uses those. I literally haven't seen anybody else besides her and one person use a checking, and like every single person uses cash or a card, like by an overwhelming margin. Like it's so weird to me. I'm telling you, man. Like I just it's so funny. People always associate testosterone with men, like say that men are the ones that are like really aggressive. But out of any of the employees, she was the most aggressive. You're slamming your items against the thing and like insulting me under your breath and calling me out of my name over and over. And like she it was like, does she really believe she can beat me up? Like I don't say that I'm not a violent person. I don't believe in violence. I'm not. This is no threat. But I could easily kill that woman if I wanted to. I'm not saying that to be funny or comedic, and I would never attempt to do that with any, like actually, but like the way she was acting, it was like she really was trying. Like, are you gonna fight me after you get your stuff scanned? I'm not scared, but I am disturbed by like who would get this aggressive and angry over a machine malfunctioning, which they do all the time. The only thing I was worried about was how far she was gonna try to take that temper tantrum she was throwing. Because I really don't like physical confrontations with people. But if I have to defend myself, I will. And we have cameras, so you try to put your hands on me, I got proof that you did it first. This kind of thing happens very frequently over self checkout machines too. I'm just saying it's so ironic that people say men have testosterone and like we're aggressive, but then you have this like man who's just trying to do a transaction and is attempting to assist the customer, is not being belligerent or calling them out of their name or showing any type of attitude, and then the customer, this like old lady, is like calling me out of my name and slamming items against the front of the store and like being very insulting. It's just you get the irony of it. There are people always like to say like demeaning things about men in general. Like they'll say that men just treat their partners as sex objects, even though I don't know any chicks. Like if you really believe that all chicks care about is your personality, or if they care about that at all, I have a bridge to sell you. And just in general, you get the idea that they always assign the like really negative character traits to men in general. But then it's the supposed darling angel chicks that are trying to fight people 50 or 40 years younger than them over a checkout. And unreasonable for sure. I told you, if I was acting the way she acted, I would have had the cops called on me in like 5 seconds. They would say, "What's wrong with him? Why is he this mad over a machine? Why is he slamming his items against the front, the front desk? Like, what is with this weird heightened aggression?" Oh yeah, gotta protect random chicks. Yeah, they're such victims, and they need to be chaperoned and held and cradled and all the rest of that. They're such a wonderful group of people. That's why they left a whole bunch of men without getting a date for the first time until they're like 30. Dude, I really could like, I'm not even saying this to be funny. I could easily see that chick thing if like if I didn't pay a hooker, right, to do, whatever, whether that's a date or, anything else. I could easily see that woman stuff, that like stagnant woman stuff lasting forever. Like I could see myself being 30 or 40 and talking to some broad that's like the same age or older, and they still are like, well, I don't feel this connection, and I don't think we have anything, and I don't believe in us and all this other nebulous crap. Like, I could really see them doing this to me for the rest of my life. Unless it's, the gold digger thing where they're trying to like basically I don't believe in any of them having legitimate, lasting attraction. I think if they say they're attracted, it's because they want something, like ulterior motive, or it's the same like, red herring thing, like with the one from last year. If it has a clip, we'll defend it. Don't you worry. Never mind. They couldn't care less about us. That's why I said nobody cares about men. No, that woman saga is really scary to think about because you don't get to experience like the most basic of things with chicks when they act that, like when they keep giving you the same stagnant result. Like, forget having a family, forget having a kid, but like just a date is like too much. 10 years of asking out chicks for a date. And no one thinks that's screwed up. No one thinks that took too long. No one thinks that shouldn't be that ridiculous. Like, I'm really baffled. Like, you have actual chicks that believe in this like Disney-esque fairy tale. You as the man are Cinderella, and you're waiting for Prince Charming to show, or whatever the female version of that, to show up and like put the glass slipper on your foot and, and finally show interest in. Oh my god. I remember you saying something like this in a video one time. This scary and very disturbing because it's just something that you can't control or attempt to change it. That's why I encourage the hooker thing, because as much as people like to demonize them, as much as people like to say you're screwed up for even recommending them, if you pay those chicks a certain price, they will do what you want. Hell, um, I'm not even kidding. If I was a millionaire, I would pay a surrogate for, to have a kid, and then I would only ever have like romantic stuff with hookers. Like there would be no more attempting stuff with regular chicks because it's too nebulous. Like with me, there's a defined thing that a woman can do that I find appealing to where she could get a date. Like if like I literally have a set of things that they do, I would find them attractive. Like it's not some stuff where I just don't feel this or I just don't like this, which is why you've had over 90 chicks that I've been accepting enough to go on a date with. With them, it's like it's like a damn maze. Like you just can't get out of it. There's always going to be something that they find in you that they have a problem with, or they're not comfortable with, or whatever other stupid excuse that they have. No, if I was wealthy, I would pay for a surrogate, and then every romantic encounter I have with chicks after that would be with hookers. Because you can't. There is nothing to be gained from wasting your time with a person that is not interested in you, and there's definitely nothing to be gained when it keeps happening over and over again. Those two things together are a bad combination. Repetition of disinterest is the way to put it. ROD. I got sick of ROD repetition of disinterest. I only like you as a friend. I'm not interested in you that way. I don't feel that way toward. I was like, yeah, I'm good. No, thank you. They've been doing this for a long time. That's why I said a lot of the guys that I know in real life that have a girlfriend, especially if they're like younger, like around my age or a little bit older, or even or a little bit young, whatever. It always feels like it was a miracle that they even got that one chick to like them. Because every time I meet someone that I've met before, they talk about how hard it is to get a date. Yeah, I'm not joking. If I ever wanted to like to just go on a date with I mean, moderately attractive chick, I would just pay a hooker. Like I'm not I that should show you how far gone attempting to appeal because I used to believe and I used to think if you talk to someone for a while, you get to know them, you're quote unquote there for them, which is impossible with these modern chicks because they don't respond to a message for like 8 months sometimes. Um, I thought if you did these types of things, you could really like get someone to like you back, but it's too nebulous and there's no defined way to appeal to these people. And it seems like no matter how well you treat them, they never like you back. So I'd rather just do things with hookers. You know, I just think in general, men would be a lot happier and better off if they mostly just did things with hookers. Like if you just paid somebody a price and they do what you want, at least you get some modicum of what you wanted. Like I could pay a hooker for a date, and then we go on this date, and I pay for the stuff or whatever, and speak for like an hour or whatever, and walk away from that some moderately satisfied because I still got what I want, even if the method to do it was not my preference. Hell, nothing that happens now is my preference because it took too damn long for it to be slightly based on what I thought it would be. You know what I mean? Like it's already a crappy version of what we would have preferred to see happen. So, you might as well make the most of it. But yeah, I just think chicks don't when you don't know what you want and you know you like to waste people's time, I think the best alternative is just walk away from them. I even spoke about this to one of my older siblings, and when I told him about it, if I was real desperate to have intercourse with, I'd not waste my time trying to court a nebulous chick and get a prostitute. Yeah, man, they some of them charge a bit. I don't think 100 is that awful, especially if you're not gonna like you're not doing it every week. It's like what once a year or a couple of months. I would do it with them a million times before I'd even ever attempt to just court a random woman again. Want to know what his response was to me? Let's hear it. Just be yourself. Eventually, someday, a woman will show up. You'll meet a woman just at an indefinite time.
Yeah.
I want to see what his response was. I'm waiting with bated breath. Watch it be something completely generic that we've all heard a million times before. It's so sad that people really say that stuff to someone and they think it like they said something profound, like just keep waiting. Like, wow, I never thought of that before. No, the only reasons I've ever wished I was rich were just like for stuff like that because I really did want a family, but I accepted that when you have chicks that don't know what they want and always seem to be obstacles to getting the things you want, it just never works out or materializes. I'm waiting to see what this response was. I'm excited.
Got to be some kind of long paragraph.
He told me, "Oh, that's cheating. You can't do that. It doesn't count." Yeah, I've heard people say that before. Last time I checked, intercourse is a male penetrating a female. So if you can still get the same result from paying for it, I don't know how that doesn't count. Like it's listen, this it's about this. People want you to do things the way they did it or the way that they think it should be done. And if you do it in a different way, that they have a problem with it. Um, but again, do you really think you would like let's pretend you pay a hooker to engage in that activity. Do you really think that while you and this hooker are doing this and you're let's say having a good time, you're gonna be like, oh man, my older sibling said this. Like, no, you're gonna be enjoying that you're finally getting what you wanted, you know, even if it's at a price, but it still is being given to you, whereas it was denied by regular chicks year after year. Oh, yeah, that's just a little thing people like to say when they want you to do what they believe you should do. But again, this is your life, and if you have the funds to make people do the things that you want, and they're willing to do those things if given a price, I would do it. I would, if like I'll never understand why you have people who object to this type of stuff. Like I had one of my mods say that I shouldn't pay a hooker for a date. I'm like, but if I want a date and I'm not getting it from someone who I don't have to pay to, but have to keep speaking to for weeks or months, and they still decline to do this, I'm more tempted to pay to actually get to experience that. That's what I believe he failed to understand properly. Plus, he's older than me and didn't have to experience this huge dry spell or saga. I remember one time I really did float the idea of doing like a cartoon adaptation of the woman stuff, like just you could that it could be a whole 80, 90 episodes. Every episode's like a different chick. And some of them are in it for like a whole season, just like speaking of this one week after week, month after month, and it goes nowhere. And they always tell you about their tragic backstory. My mom was mean. My dad wouldn't even let me use the bathroom because he said I wasn't worth the piss. Oh, boohoo, But it doesn't go anywhere. And like it's funny because the guy, like my character, would say after he sits here and listens to these different chicks' respective sob stories and tragic past and whatnot. He's like, "What was the point of her telling me all this stuff if if I asked her on a date, she was just going to ignore me and pretend like I didn't exist? Like, what is the point of investing that much time into someone month after month and year after year?" Exactly. Like who looks at that and says, "Oh, this is so appealing. I can't wait for this to continue." That's why I want to do a video. It was going to be called "Romantic Rejections: Evidence-Based Conclusions," and it was going to talk about how we don't have statistics, right, of like guys getting rejected by chicks, but we do have a pretty good idea of what's occurred in our own respective lives. So, for example, I could say that it's a fact that the overwhelming majority of chicks I have asked out have declined. They're not interested, right? Just 90 some percent. And you can't tell me to have a factual 90+% who have said they're not interested, have not reciprocated, and then say, oh, but eventually one day one will come and be interested. Like that's not a conclusion I can reach without taking some giant leap of faith based off the evidence that we have. I think it'd be an interesting video because it would basically be you saying, think of how many, like, think of what could be conducive to a number of chicks you've asked out, how many of the times it's worked out, and then how long that's gone on. Like if it's been because some people say, oh, eventually somebody, but if it's been 10 years, right, of like no one being interested in you other than like for BS reasons that don't go anywhere, like gold diggers, you can infer it's not going to happen. Because if it's already been 10 years, what's to say the same thing doesn't happen for the next 2 years or 5 years or 10, another decade? Like, give you a good example. We were in Afghan for what, 20 years? I was like, oh, we could be there for 30 or 40. We've already been there for 20. So why not another 10? It's just when you look at how long something's gone on, and you can calculate that it's probably going to continue for the near future, unless there's some like really big. But like I said, the issue is that if you like, how do I explain this? There's no good ending to this woman stuff. There just isn't. Like, let's pretend I became someone who had 100,000 subs next year, which we know is going to happen. But like, let's just pretend that's going to occur, okay? And I have chicks approaching me. You know what's going to happen, right? They're not going to like me for who I am. They're just there to try and get attention off of being associated with me. So do you see how even if some big thing changes to quote unquote make things different, it still is the same thing where you're not actually meeting anyone who likes you for who you are. And there's still like only chicks that have an ulterior motive if they even speak to you. See, that's the scariest aspect about this. I mean, who wouldn't though, especially if it's something you've been wanting for a long time. Yeah, I just don't think this is going to have a good conclusion. Like I fully believe the there's like three ways this can go. You either don't ever try to have any romance with anyone because just sick of it, like the same thing repeating itself year after year, or you have some woman that you date who's only interested in you for some kind of like superficial thing, right? Like if you became more famous, they want fame off of you. If you have more, if you're older and richer, they want money off of you. Or you just what's the other alternative? Like basically the third one is that you actually meet someone who likes you, but it what would stop it from having happened or occurred in the past 10 years? Like what would happen next year, the year after that, in 5 years to have now caused people to like you for who you are? Remember, this didn't just start occurring a week ago or a month ago. They've had a whole decade to like you for who you are, and they haven't. So why would they do this next year? Remember, unless you became more famous, but then you start to question, does the person like you for who you are just to get more attention off of you? So there's just this is not going to go end in any good way. Like I said, I'd sooner believe in Bigfoot than these chicks actually like me for who I am. I'd sooner believe in the Loch Ness monster than them saying, "Oh man, this individual has been rejected for 10 years. Oh, I'm so attracted to him. I like him for who he is." Yeah, I believe that. They'll like you for what's in your wallet or if you have any like type of fame or attention. This is not going to have any type of good ending. You can already see it from here. Because remember, you look at the platonic interactions, right? Like these people, you don't argue with, you don't piss off, you don't fight with, and they won't even send you a message once a week or once a month. Anyone understand why that's insane?
Everybody's about to start spamming in the chat.
No, they're not going to spam. We don't even have any people to spam. But I'm just saying that if you have the same result for 10 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can infer the 11th year is going to be
The same.
and then the 12th year is going to be
The same.
and the 13th.
Same.
Right. And you're doing that because you've had 10 years of the same thing to base that conclusion off of. So I said there's just a level of disbelief that I just can't buy. That's the good term for it, suspension of disbelief. When people tell you that there's going to be this magic woman that likes you for who you are and all the rest of that trash, they want you to have a suspension of disbelief. They want to say, forget your past, no matter how long it was, no matter how repetitious and tedious it was. This thing I'm telling you with no evidence is going to occur. It's kind of like if Megumi, let's say for 10 years you saw people dying, right? And like that's it. Once you died, you can't come back. And I'm like, no, Megumi, I've discovered a way to resurrect anyone. It's like, well, you say that, but I've never seen anyone get resurrected. Huh? Suspension of disbelief, very fitting way to word this. But you get from the example of what I'm saying, right? That I'm telling you I can resurrect people and bring them back to life. You're telling me you don't believe this because if that were the case, someone would have come back by now. You've seen 10 years or even longer of people just dying and then that's it. Oh, I'm so tired of these spam accounts. They are so annoying. They come on a stream, no one's even talking about whatever they're typing, and they just write weird stuff. No, there is no good ending to that woman's stuff. I'm not saying that to be funny. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm not saying that to say that you'll never meet anyone. I'm just telling you from based off what I have seen, that the conclusion will not be one that is happy or beneficial for me in any type of way. And it just all has to do with the belief that there's a time and place for everything. And there is something fundamentally wrong to live in an era where there are millions of people on the internet who all supposedly have different personalities, different likes and dislikes, and a young man who meets chicks both online and in person is supposed to wait several years, if not longer, for one woman to go on a date with him. That's really ridiculous. And I don't care what anybody says. What the fact that that's become normal and people think that's something you're supposed to just do is insane. Especially when you know that your female counterpart has no such issue in attracting a member of the opposite gender to like her back, whether that's in person or online. Like, you think if a woman went up to some guy and talked to him for a week and then said, "Hey, can we go on a date? I'll fly to your state and see you." You think he would be like, "Oh, well, I don't know you. We're taking things too fast." No, because generally guys don't believe in this like long form waste of like you're more likely to see chicks wasting men's time than men wasting chicks' time. Like men don't talk to chicks they don't find attractive usually. And every time I see something about a person like having their time wasted, it's the woman doing it to the guy. We're not as picky as chicks are. We don't have as many desire to just waste people's time, all the rest of that. Which makes it all the more sad that you're part of the group that's more accepting, and then you just keep getting met with intolerance. I remember we had that saying, "You preach acceptance while being met with intolerance." I'm still laughing at that one chick on Reddit that was like trying to like dissuade me from not being attracted to women that are overweight. I'm like, you know what? You can call it shallow, but do not sit here and convince yourself that chicks don't have 900 hoops they want you to jump through to appear attractive to them. Do not don't that and that's why I say if you have standards, stick to them. Like whatever amount of pickiness you may have, I guarantee you is nowhere near the amount of pickiness of chicks. You know why you know that's the truth? Because there aren't groups of chicks talking about I've been rejected by 30 different men this year. You don't see that.
Why 30?
It could be 30, 40, 50.
60?
Yeah. For me, it's 90
Dang.
over a 10-year period, or 7 years rather. I just gave up after that. I was like, this is stupid. No, don't ever feel bad about having standards. Like for me, there's certain stuff I like. I don't like chicks that are overweight. I my preference, I do like older chicks, whatever. Um, what's another example? And I just refuse to compromise because remember, we compromised on religion, we compromised on height, ethnicity. You compromised on so many different things. You accepted all these different types of chicks. I mentioned before, I once tried to date a woman that was blind. So, like the era of you feeling bad for having preferences, that's dead. So stupidly slanted in favor of chicks. Yep. Which is why I said the hooker thing to me is a solution that rewards you for being able, like, think about this, right? Let's say you work a 9 to 5 and you do this every day for like a week, 2 weeks. Paying 100 to go and get with some hooker, whether that's with a date or the other thing. I'm just not saying it's easier. It's like I don't see where that's bad on your part. You wanted something, people were not willing to give it to you, but if you pay a price, you can get it. So I don't really see much of an issue here. And when you pay the price, you can get as often as you want, as long as you're able to pay the price. There's a defined way to get what you want if you pay a price. Like, would you rather pay a price to have someone do something with you, or talk to a person for weeks or months who's still likely to not do it? And remember, in because people like to compare getting a date to getting a job, which is really stupid because it's two different things. One's essential, one isn't. But you know damn well that if you were looking for, let's say, construction, right? You wouldn't have to talk to some construction worker for 2 months to see if they want to do your property. No, you would talk to them once. You pay them a price. They come. You schedule a date. They come and do it. So I said this woman stuff's been allowed to be stretched out and dragged out to the point of absurdity. They're not owed your patience. They're not owed my patience. Like you can't let these people think that just because of their gender, they're allowed to treat you like trash, right? Like the one that was sitting there and ignoring me for 2 weeks after she broke up with her boyfriend. I didn't do anything to her. We never argued, and then she just started treating me like trash. It's like I'm not putting up with this. She's not entitled to my patience. It was the same thing with the one that I mentioned I got rid of on my Thursday stream. It's like I never argued with her, and then all of a sudden for 2 months she just wouldn't respond back to me. It was like I didn't do anything to this person. Didn't have a fight with her. Just starts treating you like trash out of the blue. So you just have to say, I'm done with this. I'm not putting up with this. I'm not your slave. You know, like so many people push this stuff about the liberation of women and they were treated so badly eons ago and blah 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 blah. But that's exactly what they're doing to men now. Put up with me ignoring you for weeks. Um, I can say whatever I want to you, and you're supposed to forgive me. We as a collective can deny you what you want, even if it's the simplest thing as a date, and you're supposed to just keep putting up. To hell with that. And then all that time wasted just like that. But the chick you attempted to appeal to would be allowed to have a progressing love life without the fear of being friend zoned or having the time wasted. Exactly. I've never met a single chick that spoke to multiple men that weren't attracted to her for weeks and months, or had to go on some years long arduous quest to get a date. That's why I said it's heavily slanted in their favor, and I don't really see the appeal of joining and participating in a system that is designed to screw you over. It's like, oh yes, go talk to this woman that has 15 other men trying to ask her out. Great odds for you. Good deal for you. Oh yeah, go talk to this woman that you can speak to for 2 months or even longer than that, and she still won't go on a date with you. Great deal for you. Go talk to this woman who, as you saw on the stream on Saturday, can sit in your DMs and cry to you about all these different issues, like she trusts you or has some kind of special belief in your ability to connect with each other. Just for if you ask that person on a date, for her to say that she doesn't know you that well and she'd rather be friends on this other trash. That's completely antithetical to the way she was talking a few days ago. Like why put up with this stuff? Remember, you live one time, and you're supposed to be miserable. You're supposed to have dreams and wants that are denied to you by people who are only propped up because they have a triangle between their legs. No, why? I'd love to know, why do you have to have your time wasted? Who decided that because you had the misfortune of being a male, you deserve to have your time wasted, to never have your feelings reciprocated? Who decided that? Who selected for you that being male spelled doom for wanting to be with a woman or have a partner, whatever? like I said, I don't get why they're allowed to have such power. And that's why I don't see any benefit to still engaging with them. Like I mentioned before, I don't even want to have platonic relations with them because they still act insane. I'd rather just unfriend all of them and block them and be done with it. Yeah, they're bots writing, weird stuff. Just ignore it, man. I just get rid of it. They're not even worth my breath. But like I said, that woman stuff, it needs to die. If like remember the main reason you get in a romantic relationship with someone is because you like them, you want to spend time with them, you enjoy being with them. And I don't enjoy having my time wasted. I don't like talking to someone who doesn't like me back year after year. You know, you are a human being who I didn't commit any crimes unless it's a sin to be straight. It's really beyond proportion, but that's why I said if you want to intercourse, a date, I don't know, go to the amusement park with a woman, I'd rather you just pay a hooker. Like, why have your time wasted with people that don't like you back, who have been proven to not show interest back year after year? And I said before, and I've made this pledge: if I have no interest in chicks at this point, like just doing stuff with them, romantic. But if I did and I wanted a date or the other thing, I would pay a price and have it done. I'm not going to sit here and talk to somebody for months that doesn't like me. It's stupid. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'm getting off because I'm tired now. We had a really rude person yesterday, but that's the nature of this stuff. It was just gratifying to see people talk about how insane that person was. I hope you enjoyed this cameo by that person over there. Oh,
Okay.
okay. I'll be doing a stream again on if it's not Monday, it'll be um next Saturday. But I'll have some other day this week I should be able to do it. So thanks and have a good rest of your Saturday.